Journey of Abstinence. The beginning, Chapter 1. Month 3. It's been really hard dealing with myself and not knowing what they say, the serotonin emotions to flow through to release. Last night, all I can think about was being touched, cuddled, and nurtured. I hate to match a face with who I like. Not knowing the background of their history kind of bothers me because mentally I just feel like any idea that comes to mind hasn't been healthy. Uncomfortable with the thought of intimacy, yet I miss the feeling. Maybe this is me coping. Maybe this is me settling with experiencing a different lifestyle. Not by choice, but without the choice, it's hard to make an error, right? It's getting harder when the body remembers how certain people made it feel and the mind receiving those messages wants the same or to experience those feelings of being touched physically as emotionally being overwhelmed. The reaction would be sightseeing and an eye-pleasing. Walking away is hard for you just as it is to see them walk away. All you think or wonder is, do they know the way that they or this person specifically makes me feel? All I want in this moment is for them to give me affection, depending on what they know about you, how you are, or what's familiar about your relationship, past tense. There will be assumption that this is the way she or this person is. So it's enough to respect those boundaries, but inside all you really want is for them to try. Do I want this for myself, they say? Don't tell others your plan or manifestation will be some type of reversed reaction instead of attracting your desires or wishes begin to repel. Just a conversation. I made a vow to myself that, yeah, this is what I'm doing, when honestly I had no idea what I wanted at the time. Being uncertain, I guess you can say, is when the decision is made for you. Your foundation is standing, built, or holding on transparency. Sometimes I speak too soon and sometimes I don't speak at all, both in the same result, change. What happens when I'm sure? What happens when I'm in the moment without anything to be afraid of because I'm in a place where the walls built aren't my own and the choice isn't up to me or anyone that would support rather than discourage? Then will I be untouchable? Standards, having a plan for your body to align with the lifestyle you want for yourself isn't easy. I do truly feel that it's worth the time and the effort and something to look forward to, as the results may be very much rewarding. But there's always a but. What if there wasn't a but? Would every obstacle be removed, being that those buts are what actually held you together? It's nearly at the point. It's nearly at that point and I feel like a dog in heat, running around tackling errands to release the tension. Match no face. I won't give a description, but I can't help but lose control without experience with someone. It's always new, like a new dish calling out to you, but you turn away because you have no appetite. But the more you resist, the more you wish you could have taken the dish right when it was given. I'm sad to say it's not a goal, it's not a vow or a promise I made to myself to walk down this road of abstinence. Shit, life happens. And when it does, I roll the dice. Whether or not, if I move or not, I'm making the most out of this spot. Not saying that not saying that to gloat, because in this boat I'm pretty sure it's obvious to be everything. But it's just learning to swallow a pill, allowing the digest process and remaining patient while life goes on.
Journey of Abstinence Part 2, this time around. Failure is nothing to be proud of, and I feel like I learned this the hard way every time. Failure can be a stepping stone or it can be an adapting movement, and by this I mean that you failed so much that you've adapted to the feeling, and therefore it's easy for you to give up, throwing a pity party for yourself and feeling sorry when in fact you're the one who actually cares or knows that you failed. Who else knows? So with this idea, you can either ponder the question or you can call it for yourself a chance to start over or try again. Throwing off all these pieces from your board as the feeling going back to your childhood with excitement. You're either that person with the mindset of this time I'm going to win, or the person with the mindset of now I know the rules, now I've had the experience, it's time to have fun.
What's the difference between the two players? One opponent is out for what they may say blood. The competitor, the challenger, someone with a fixated mindset of experiencing losses and wins. Is it about fun to them? I wouldn't think so, but more so of adding to their collection of their ego lives. egotistic lives. This place is called the Pride Land. The other opponent has more of an open mindset, not so much of going in for the kill as a hunter with a gun, spotting the prey without any hesitation. Well, experience. With this opponent, they are aware, observant, slow-paced. They are looking at the board or the deer as easy. They are scoping out, dissecting. How would this move benefit or affect me later on, you would think? Oh, they must not be hungry. Or the opponent will look at such a person this way. It does seem so. It's not that this person is hungry. This opponent is looking for something maybe satisfying. Something to hold on to and take with them as a savoring bite that wouldn't only last for the moment. It's more than just a win or a lose or a loss. It's about the process. Could we compare and contrast the perspective of both players? The first opponent looks at the game as an extracurricular activity, and the second opponent looks at the game as a learning tool. But what's the difference? When you go to practice, you're there for one purpose, to win the approaching game. Opponent 1, a patient trying to find a solution or to fix whatever lies ahead for future purposes, long-term result versus short-term. Opponent 2, you can become solid when it's easy, but what happens when it's different? I'm asking myself this question specifically because when something is easy, I can say I'm opponent 2, but when it's hard to withstand, I become opponent 1. If I was to toss all of the pieces from the board game starting over, would this make me feel less disappointed with the truth as sweeping up a mess from a floor you toss to the trash can only to allow that mess to build more and more each day? The pile eventually overflows, and when it does, you'll have to clean up the mess the trash bag will make when you've decided it's time to get this out. Allowing something to go on for so long not only hurts the situation, but it clouds the judgment that there was ever any good to come. Foundations built on transparency. When dependency didn't fall into a category of financial dependency, but also events. Getting into the habit of celebrating holidays with someone, but what happens when that someone or those people aren't around? There was a time when I was told you have to do it now. Prepare yourself for when I'm not there. Now I realize that this message could have been from anyone who couldn't be there in that moment to deliver this message. I was young, so I was confused, asking, well, what are you saying? You're going to leave me or something? Death crossed my mind, but not so much because he was still young, so I couldn't fully grasp or interpret what this person meant at the time. As I sit back and observe life every single day through my experience in regards to relationships, social events, and moments, I can't help but assume that maybe this person didn't understand what they said, being that it was the first spoken to me. In a moment of trial, a situation, their judgment was made as if this person was sitting on their very witness stand, on the very witness stand you were sitting on for someone else's assurance, only to see for the first time that there was more to the story you had no clue existed if you had not stepped up to the plate first. Prepare for when I'm not there. This statement is very intense because who would want to have this in their heads? Seeing that your relationship isn't a tiny bit close to the edge until later on, when you're sitting in the very spot with this statement stamped across your head, is obvious, isn't it? When you're contemplating what to do for two, including yourself, does the number matter? When you're financially in a rut, does time matter? When you're trying to figure out what's so special about this tradition anyway, do I matter? Can you figure out which out of the three was a trick question there? How do you paint a picture without being equipped to do so? How can I compete with my own childhood? I was conversating with someone and he was saying there was a time where we would slept hungry, referring to the kids or himself as a kid. I had this question in my mind, but I couldn't get it out faster than a response. So I just put myself in his shoes, not past tense, but currently. Would he say he went through as a child I'm going through now? Addressing as a mother of a child who requires more than an average child, I can't bear feeling a neglect that could possibly cause 2 times the effect on his body versus the average child. I brought it to tears because I feel like the position I'm in is doing just that. Like a baseball player sitting there watching all their teammates strike out, but the coach just doesn't give you a chance to try and turn the situation around. Not that this is a hobby. It's just a hobby anymore, but now it's my career. When I don't play, that's one less plate at my dinner table tonight, if any at all. Juggling so many apples in one barrel. You can see orange, you can see green, automatically you think sour. You can see yellow, automatically you think sweet. You can see red, automatically you don't expect much, but then you look back at the orange and you think to yourself, different, or in the wrong barrel. It's so easy to become distracted by the orange when you're familiar with what's obvious or common. Tradition would be the apples of common colors, but seeing one orange would be unordinary, or what they would call a new breed. A spark of hope, a road to a dead end, a light after so long being out comes on. No longer you are looking for just one bite. Now you've become so fascinated with life. Would this be dangerous, this type of attention taking focus away from your current task? To please the mind would be taking this orange apple, dissecting, researching as a juice would be thirst quenching droplets upon your scalp, absorbed to the brain for stimuli. Would you then be distracted by your appetite of the disregarding your appetite of the body? One thing leads to another, makes it hard to remember what you were feeling before you were distracted, but let the reminder remain in the next moment you feel again. To be the same, eventually reality checks the box you left empty. What's more satisfying than to take more than what is given, especially when at this point that orange apple could have just been a figment of your own imagination due to you lacking in health. I felt as though I may have took it upon myself to continue this journey blindfolded. That maybe if I'd thrown a design onto a blindfold, no matter if I couldn't see it at the time, the perspective wouldn't be from my own vision but biased from an outward approach. How spontaneous of me, how creative you can be with problem and forming them into something worth looking at. What a beautiful artifact. Yeah, I would respond because the process was such a mess. I could choose to go see this as anything I like, knowing deep down inside, if only I had the patience, the discipline, and control to step away from my childlike mind, maybe I could have gone further than a sculptor. Maybe I could have been one. In a place to say and give so much compliments to someone else's mistakes for a change. Maybe instead of calling this artifact for viewing purposes, could have been somewhere I could finally see for home. Sometimes life can become really confusing. Sometimes the world around you can become too quiet. Sometimes a logical or structural lifestyle is the reason you can't try anything new, or you feel wrong because that's what's right has already been decided for you. What's breaking all the rules, saying no and walking out of line when you're giving instructions to stay behind the next until your time comes? What's breaking the rules when you're not sure of the cause, so you let someone else decide? Holding this glass in my hand, I approach the mixer with a request, placing the change within their hands. I want Cool Breeze Trick or Treat on ice. I say as they pour away. I notice the color isn't familiar and there isn't any ice. Being aware of this mistake, I don't question, I just take. Why wouldn't I correct their mistake? I'm pretty sure they heard me say Cool Breeze Trick or Treat on ice, but instead they gave me Crown Royal Sour Apple. I freeze, finishing up my drink as I glance at the name a couple of times printed on the receipt. It wasn't until I made my exit that it hit me. That name rang a bell. At first I didn't mind, hoping for something different for a change. But a closed mouth doesn't get fed, and I'm one to keep mine closed. And at this rate, I wouldn't have it any other way. Knowing this, I seen the mistake as a chance to take, to step outside of my comfort zone without opposing. I accepted, only to realize later the consequences of my actions following me home. I began to question myself. Am I thinking straight? What am I doing? What have I done? Is it too late, or should I wait to correct my own mistake? I questioned the drink. The taste of it is familiar, maybe not to my request, but to some drink I've had in the past. The name to anything unopened would be as a saying, just because it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. I'm pretty sure that's why some people, especially the elderly, doesn't hesitate to say no to something they haven't already had before. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, if I was able to go back and undo what was done, would I think about myself? The question is no. But when I'm not thinking about myself, the answer would be yes, as if looking at yourself as a child, watching them weep, acknowledging the crippling situation for what it is. Instantly, you're feeling guilt, shame, regret.